Welcome.
It's like, okay, I do need to buy this thing.
Welcome, welcome. Please take your seat. We're going to get started in just a moment.
We always go up, so it's for sure.
Yeah, he's
I
right.
just finished house remodel. I needed a very specific size sink because my
Edie
bathroom
Wishing.
is very big. And I
Hi, good to see you again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was at the summit.
Yeah,
this
just
week.
like,
Yeah. Wade was there yesterday. Apparently, I didn't make it over.
I
there.
was telling him.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. We are really excited to be with you. This Wildfire and Forest Resilience Task Force, for those of you who participate, travels around the state and holds these regional task force meetings, which are frankly the best part of our work on the task force. And we are excited to be here in the Tahoe Basin for the first time as a task force. My name is Wade Crowfoot. I lead the California Natural Resources Agency, and I co-chair this task force along with Jennifer Eberlein, who is the regional forester for the U.S. Forest Service Region 5. We've got an action-packed day, a packed agenda, and great opportunities for you to connect with one another throughout the day. I want to just point out the exits. If you need to leave at any point, the exits are in this direction. Know that, as well as the bathrooms. So throughout the day, we will have certain breaks, stretch breaks and bathroom breaks, but you should feel free if you need to take a call to exit outside of the room. While we've had several meetings across the state, this is the first task force meeting that is by state in nature. We are so proud to partner with the state of Nevada on so many topics related to natural resources, including, of course, the stewardship of the Lake Tahoe Basin. And I am very fortunate to work with Director James Settlemyer, who leads the Department of Natural Resources in Nevada. And so in a moment, I will ask him to share opening thoughts to invoke the meeting here. We are also very pleased to be joined by another important governmental leader, and that is Chairman Sorrel Smokey of the Washoe Tribe. As you know, the Washoe Tribe is a critical partner in all things related to natural resource management and wildfire resilience. Many of you may have taken the tour yesterday of the mill that was stood up thanks to the Washoe Tribe. So we'll hear from these two government leaders to begin our day. And first, I welcome Director Settlemyer. Thank you so much for all you do and for joining us here today.
Thank you, sir. I don't know if there's a button, boss, or is it on?
No button, just talk.
All right, you just have to get really close to the microphone. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. It's always a pleasure working with you, Director Crowfoot. We've been working over the past about 6 months to a year almost now on different issues. Always good to see a friend of mine and neighbor, Sorrel Smokey. We went to school together, but we won't say when. Welcome to Nevada. We've heard that, California has had some unbearable heat. Other areas of Nevada have been having some unbearable heat too, so we thought it was good to put you on top of a hockey rink to make you a little bit cooler today. We thank you for coming, and I think this facility is an excellent place to have the discussion because one of the things about this facility is its multiple uses. As we're having this Wildland Task Force meeting, which just so you know, my daughter's mad. She specifically told me I had to come back with something with the logo WTF on it. I don't know why. But anyways, this facility, if you look at it, we're having this great meeting, and at the same time, you have the Nevada League of Cities that's having the meeting up there. And to me, that's very symbolic. It's all about maximum utilization within the limited resources that we have. And as we looked at the last couple of fires working together, Director Crowfoot and our respective agencies, and I'm very fortunate to have Casey, our State Fire Marshal Fire Warden, here today. It was only through that cooperation, through everyone, using all of our resources to accomplish getting those fires put together and put out. Between the Park Fire and the Davis Fire, we always had serious concerns. And of course, to add to that, we're up here at Tahoe, which is definitely by state. And no matter where you're at, Nevada or California, nobody wants the fire getting into the basin. We're always very concerned about that. So I think that's something to think about today and keep that in the foreground, the concept of how we get the maximum utilization. None of us have the resources that we once did, and we're always being limited. So it's only through that teamwork can we accomplish our goals. But with that, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you for the opportunity, Secretary Crowfoot.
Thank you so much, Director, for really all the partnership and the partnership this fire season to protect Nevadans and Californians from wildfire. We always begin this meeting by thanking the men and women that are out there protecting our communities and our landscapes. And so thank you for so much close collaboration. Chairman Smokey, of course, leads the Washoe Tribe of California and Nevada and is driving and leading so much of the work that we know we need to expand across California, including cultural fire and natural resource management. So Chairman Smokey, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here and see so many people, and especially to talk about our area and the land. This is Ta'o'aga. It's the land around Lake Tahoe. So if you, from those of you who may not know, something I like to tell everybody is that if you remember anything, you're sitting here, you're at the Lake. That's because Tahoe the name actually came from the mispronounced word, the Washoe word for lake, which is Da'o. And so when you say Lake Tahoe, you're saying Lake. So, yeah. So for the tribe, it's really, really great that we're collaborating on this and talking about this. And none of the work that was done couldn't have been done without partnerships. But to give you some examples of what we've been doing and starting within the Washoe Tribe within the past couple of years is redeveloping fire teams within the Washoe Tribe to be able to assist where we can. Also, the creation of a conservation corps, which is mainly younger adults, age 18 to 24. They've been learning how to work in conservation, how to do thinning projects, how to operate machinery and equipment, while at the same time getting their cultural monitoring certifications. So they are the ones, when they're out there on the lands, being stewards on their own homelands, they know how to identify the plants, medicines that were used by Washoe people for all these years, as well as know how to create the protections of culturally sensitive sites and areas. So they're a huge benefit to the tribe and in our efforts as to what we're trying to do to assist in what's been going on in and around the Tahoe Basin. I think for many years, as some of you may know, the Washoe Tribe was kind of absent in our presence around here, and that's something that we truly wish to reestablish, is not just the access for our people, but our people being stewards of these lands the way our ancestors have for thousands of years. And now we're getting to that point as a small start to be able to do so. And in turn, helping with the collaboration of partners in the area to be able to protect the lands, as we know that's what's needed out here. The fires that have kind of ripped through the past few years have really showed us that what we've been doing, it wasn't necessarily wrong, but it didn't work. We had such devastating fires that we know we need to do something different. And with what we've been doing in especially our Washoe Environmental Department, you'll hear from them a little bit later, is a focus on reintroducing that Washoe ecological knowledge. Some of you realize the big word is TEK, traditional ecological knowledge, and that's re-implementing the traditional uses in a way using modern practices to be able to manage forests the way that they have been for years before. And that's for specific purposes, for specific regrowth, and to prevent fires. If fire is a living, breathing entity, if we don't take care of it, if we don't respect it, if we don't use it, then it's going to take care of itself. It's going to find a way. And when I say fire is alive, it's an element of life, just as much as water and air. You need to have fire. And it's alive, it dances, it moves, and so we need to be respectful of that as well and work with fire in order to be able to help re-implement those practices into the lands. And it is our goals to hopefully be, play a bigger part. What we're doing right now is a start. We're still pretty small, but with the collaborations of all the partners and everybody up here in Tahoe, everybody sitting up here, especially the secretaries for both Nevada and California, because we work both sides, as well as the collaboration of other tribes. some of you, if you don't know, we just had a collaboration the past 3 days over the hill in Shingle Springs. You know, us tribes of the Sierras are getting together to actually do more of this work as well, and that's on all sides, not just the Tahoe Basin. It's all the way around us, because you know the land has been neglected. And so we need to re-implement that ourselves. It's been said by one of our former chairmen years ago, is the health of the land is the health of the people. And that's still true today. And so we need to truly engage to be boots on ground to making our lands healthy to help our people. And that's all people, not just Washoe people, not just Tahoe people. That's all the way around. So appreciate the time and look forward to collaborating more and getting more information from everybody else. On my way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairman Smokey. And I will just reinforce, your point about traditional ecological knowledge, particularly since we're here today focused on wildfire resilience. So much of what we need to do in California is to learn from these tribal practices, and specifically cultural burning across our landscapes. I'm really proud that our Governor Newsom signed very recently what is called Senate Bill 310, which is specifically focused on expanding the ability of tribes to conduct cultural fire burns on their original homeland. So we're excited to much more of this. So if you are new to the task force, if this is your first meeting, I hope you'll learn that this is very much of a working task force. The folks that you see on this stage are leaders from federal government, state government, local government, some of our key tribal leaders as well, all focused on the same goal, which is building our resilience to the catastrophic wildfire threats across our state. If I had to identify sort of the 3 things that this task force is focused on doing and actually doing, the first is integrating our efforts. We know that there are many levels of government, hundreds of organizations that are working on this challenge. And this task force really brings us all together to identify common goals and common strategies to actually do what we need to do, number 1. Number 2 is to build regional leadership and to support regional leadership. I've said it before and I'll say it again, the answer to strengthening wildfire resilience across California is not, the answers are not in Sacramento and not in Washington, D.C. They're in places like the Tahoe Basin. And so we've been focused on how do we provide resources and support regional leaders to identify priorities and projects in these regions and then help get those projects done. And then the third core goal is increasing the pace and scale of the work that we need to do. While I'm very proud that California, Nevada, the U.S. Forest Service have improved our response capacity to fight fires once they start, this task force is born out of the recognition that there's so much that we have to do before wildfires ever come to ensure that when wildfires do come, we can keep them small and manageable and avoid them becoming catastrophic. So integration, regional leadership, and increasing the pace and scale is what this task force is all about. I want to take a moment to thank those who enabled us to come together today. Our hosts, the Tahoe Fund, Amy Berry and Caitlin Meyer, the Tahoe Conservancy, Jason Vasquez and Aaron Ernst. So can we put our hands together for the Tahoe Fund and the Tahoe Conservancy? We also have almost 24 sponsors that helped fund this large gathering. And I'll name the first set of sponsors at the beginning of the meeting, and then at the end of the meeting, I'll name the second set of sponsors. The first set, just big thanks, and we can hold our applause until the end. Caltrans Emergency Services, U.S. Forest Service Region 5, CAL FIRE, Nevada Energy Foundation, BurnBot, Cal Forests, the California Biomass Energy Alliance, Fire Aside, Fire UPI, Lake Tahoe Community College, and Rural Counties of California. Let's put one more applause there. And a special thanks to the California Conservation Corps, the Tahoe Center. If you see Corps members outside or around our meeting today, please thank them for our service. These are young people from across California that are focused on giving a year of their life to natural resource conservation across our state and are helping us have a successful day here. So we're going to start off this meeting with some broad level remarks from our executive leadership, and then after that we'll turn it over to our executive director, Patrick Wright, to give everybody an update on recent happenings at the task force. So I'd like to introduce our partner in chairing this effort, this task force, Kara Chadwick, who is our Deputy Regional Forester for Region 5 U.S. Forest Service. Kara.
Wade. Well, good morning, everyone. It's really amazing to see all these folks here and all of you here in South Lake Tahoe. I am looking forward to some really energetic discussions around and conversations around what you've accomplished around healthy landscapes. It's going to be we've got a great day planned. Yesterday, we had the opportunity to go tour the Tahoe Forest Products Mill in Carson City, and I took advantage of that. I am excited to see new industry in the area because we all know that industry is critically important to the work we do here to get our work done efficiently. So today, looking forward to hearing more about accomplishments, building on past meetings, and around managing our forests and reducing wildfire impacts to our communities and our infrastructure. So I wanted to start out by talking a little bit about all the amazing work that's being done on our national forests across California. So region-wide, we've completed almost 300,000 acres of hazardous fuels accomplishment. Now, the end of our fiscal year is the end of September, so we are still, we should see those numbers go up a little bit as we are still rounding up those accomplishments. But of those 300,000 acres, we completed over 108,000 acres through mechanical means, and then over 71,000 acres we completed through prescribed fire. And this is the most acres we've completed in California through prescribed fire. So we're really happy with that, and we hope to grow that. Also, we completed over 107,000 acres through on-plan natural ignitions. And most notably, last fall on the Six Rivers National Forest, they completed around 100,000 of that accomplishment through an unplanned ignition because it was the right place, the right time, the right conditions. Got to have that, and we had the resources to accomplish it. I do want to add that we only count acres, though, that meet certain criteria that provide benefits to the resources. So also, as you all know, here in California, we have, I say here in California, I know we're in Nevada, right? Sorry. In California, we have 6 wildfire crisis strategy landscapes, and they cover 11.6 million acres. So projects within this 11.6 million acres, we're working on reducing hazardous fuels and reducing threat to our communities and our infrastructure. Now, we're not treating all this 11.6 million acres. We don't have the funds or the time to do that. So it's placing strategic treatments with our partners on the landscape and accelerating the pace of that and doing larger treatments as well. So in these landscapes, we accomplished 135,000 acres of that 300,000 acre fuel reduction. So that's almost half the regional total. And, you know, for me, acres don't necessarily tell the story, as we all know. And with the task force, we're working on talking about outcomes. And so outcomes are really going to tell that story. How many communities did we protect? What about infrastructure? So more to come on that. So with all the work we have to do in these landscapes, we work with many, many partners across the state. We have contracts and agreements with 110 unique partners across the state. It's a lot of partners. And we've invested $460 million in this work with partners. So we're doing this work not only this last year, but for several years to come. So the Forest Service continues to invest in landscapes. This last year, $100 million was announced for to fund landscapes outside those 21 wildfire crisis strategy landscapes. That was nationally. And here in California, we received $15 million in 3 project areas, and that's on the Tahoe National Forest, El Dorado, and Sequoia National Forest. So there will be work beginning in those forests around fuels, well, there's ongoing work there. Also, both the El Dorado and the Tahoe will be completing some of this work under the NAFO MOU. It's a new MOU, the National Alliance of Forest Owners. It's a fuel break MOU, so we're excited to do work under that. And continuing the spirit of cross-boundary work, 17 partners in California received community wildfire defense grants, and that totaled $48.1 million. So that's work that will be done around our communities. And then just real briefly on wildfire response. It was an active fire here, as you all know, here in California. And we did have some large fires, but I know Chief Tyler will talk about this more, but we continue to have a success rate of putting out 95% of those fires on initial attack, and that's due to the partnership, the collaboration, the coordinated response with all of our partners across the state, tribal, other federal, state, local governments. And some of the good news out of this is we saw examples of where our fuel reduction work actually did work. The Bear Fire on the Tahoe National Forest, we were able to prevent structure loss because of fuels reduction through mastication near the community of Sierra Brooks and along roadways. And then on the Gold Complex on the Plumas National Forest, existing fuel treatments on both federal and private lands were instrumental in containing the Smith and Mill fires. And then last month I had the opportunity to get down to the fires in Southern California, and on the airport fire on the Cleveland, I saw several examples of where fuel breaks around infrastructure worked. So the region's priorities also include recreation and visitor experience and post-fire recovery. And I've almost out of time, but I just want to mention in the recreation world, we anticipate releasing the National Reimagine Recreation Strategy later this winter, and this strategy aligns with the Task Force Joint Strategy for Sustainable Recreation and Wildfire Mitigation. So I look forward to the rest of the day, and thank you.
Thank you, Kara. Yeah, it is truly remarkable what the U.S. Forest Service has been able to accomplish here in California over the last few years. And I want to emphasize the point that you made, which is over the last year, the U.S. Forest Service has achieved more safe prescribed fire than ever before, which is a key goal of this task force. So huge thanks for all that the Forest Service is doing. Now, those who are here today, which are, gosh, I think we're about 400 people, and those that are joining online, there's a lot of programs, a lot of points of progress that we'll talk about here today. Just know that this task force has a very good website that breaks down all of the programs, all of the progress, emerging issues, opportunities. So if you haven't checked out the website, please do so. We also have a newsletter that is shared monthly so that you can keep up on this. There's just a lot happening, so we try to put it in one place for one-stop shop of information. Now, the U.S. Forest Service, of course, is doing both firefighting and forestry, and so is CAL FIRE. Many of us know, probably all of us in California know of CAL FIRE for its heroism in fighting fires, but less people know about CAL FIRE's fundamental role leading our forestry work in California. CAL FIRE is short for the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. So I am so thankful to have Chief Joe Tyler as a partner in this work. Joe leads the 12,000 person CAL FIRE team, not only on the wildfire response, but also on all this work on wildfire resilience. So Joe, if you could give us an update on the work at CAL FIRE, and given that we're in the middle of intense wildfire season, let us know your assessment of how the wildfire season has evolved this year in 2024.
Well, thank you, and good morning, everyone. My name is Joe Tyler. I'm the Director and Fire Chief at CAL FIRE. The last meeting we had at the task force was in Sacramento, California, and it was on July 12th. Now, coming up into July 12th, we recognized across California that we were hitting a large heat dome that was changing the environment of the fuels across California. And shortly after that task force meeting, we had the fourth largest fire in California's history devastate portions of Butte and Tehama County. And I'll touch on that here in just a moment. But being here in Lake Tahoe is an important aspect of CAL FIRE and the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, as we were established in 1885 as part of the efforts of forest resilience that was happening in the Lake Tahoe Basin at that time. I must acknowledge all the partners, because I have truly and always said that we certainly cannot do this alone. And so those folks that are in the room or even not in the room today, our local government partners on both the California and on the Nevada side, Tahoe Douglas, whose district we're in now, from the Forest Service, the El Dorado National Forest, the Tahoe, the Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit, the Humboldt-Tiobe, as well as our tribal partners. Chair Smokey, thank you very much for that. But I have to acknowledge, and she has no idea that I'm going to do this, I have to acknowledge my partner that's in the room from the Nevada Division of Forestry, Casey. Casey, I know you're in the room somewhere. Could you please stand up? So Casey is leading the efforts with all of the partners in the room and not in the room today, and the efforts on the Nevada side as well. And what a great opportunity is for us to be here together. We were just recently in Rhode Island together as well. It is important to recognize that while we rebranded ourselves as CAL FIRE, we did not give up our statutory responsibilities and our recognition of the importance of healthy forests, fuels management, and making sure that our natural resources are protected across California. We recognize through efforts across the state that perhaps the exclusion of fires helped create the environment we're in today, and puts us in a place that we need to, again, turn our attention to a more resilient forest. It's important to recognize, and I'm not going to take away from some of the staff that are going to present in the next panel, of a lot of the great work that's going on of hitting our goals and being able to establish and provide grants. It is a large influx from the administration, both the state of California, I'm sure in Nevada, and across the Biden administration, to ensure that funding is flowing for all of you who are in the room as grantees to be able to do the great work that's on the ground to do exactly what we're trying to accomplish. We realized that we needed to invest in technology to help us lead the way, both in early detection to help prevent large and catastrophic fires through the use of camera systems, the use of intel products, both by satellite and by fixed-wing aircraft. We recognized that we needed to become more transparent to the work that everyone is doing. And one of the ways that we did that was updating the CAL FIRE website at fire.ca.gov, allowing you to see real-time fire activity, but that's only one part of it. We recognize that hidden deep within the website was all of the resilience efforts that people were having a hard time finding. And so across the homepage, across the tab, we created a Prevent tab, where you can see all the fire prevention and resilience work that is going on behalf of CAL FIRE and its grantees. Likewise, below the home page, where you see the incident page, you will see a lot of the fuels reduction efforts that are going on to be able to expand upon those. We continue to build upon modeling software to affect model runs. You will learn more today about the Interagency Treatment Tracker and the Fuels Treatment Effectiveness Tracker that we have as well. Now, it is not without the fire suppression efforts and the fire suppression personnel that I continue to commit that when they are not doing fire suppression work during the summer, they are doing fire prevention work, and we will hold true to that. Likewise, in keeping fires small across California, we were able to implement the first CAL FIRE-owned C-130 with more to come in 2025, night-flying Black Hawk helicopters implemented into the system, and continuing the efforts of the exclusive use aircraft that we have. Now, as of today, this morning, I was just updating them while we were here, we recognize in 2024 that the fire year is not over. We recognize that we still have to continue the fuels, the resilience efforts, the forest resilience, the fuels reduction across the board. Over 6,700 fires have occurred in the state of California as of today, burning just over 1 million acres. Now put that against the 5-year average. We're slightly above the 5-year average of 6,600 fires, but we're slightly below 1.2 million acres as the 5-year average across California. Here is my concern. My concern is that in 2024, the number of fires are higher. But as I talked to many before this meeting, the frequency of naturally caused ignitions by lightning are less. So here is another way that we have to overcome man-made, human-caused fires to try to make our communities and the forest more resilient. Now again, on July 12th, circling back to that, we thought we were going into the fire year, but we thought at the time we were still in an okay space. And then a short 12 days later, the Park Fire started, burning 429,000 acres, destroying 709 homes, and damaging 54 others. Now, fortunately, there were other fires across the state during that time, but nothing of that magnitude. Fast forward to September, and take this into consideration, the resources that are available in California and in Nevada, and across the nation for that matter. In the matter of 5 days, 4 large fires started. We started with a line fire below Big Bear in the community of San Bernardino that ultimately burned almost 44,000 acres on the 5th. By the 7th, the Davis Fire started, burning 5,800 acres. By the 8th, the Bridge Fire in the Angeles National Forest started, burning almost 55,000 acres. And then the Airport Fire started on the 10th, burning 23,000 acres, making resources stretched thin across the state, requiring us to rely on our neighboring states, our international partners, to be able to mitigate these incidents. The fire season and the fire year are not over. We still continue to come out of what we're seeing as another heat event across California. We recognize our predictive services units are still predicting above average fire activity across the south half of the state. So with that, thank you for the opportunity to talk about the 2024 fire year.
Chief Tyler, thanks so much, and let's give him a round. I think one thing that propels us forward, both as a task force and I imagine everybody that's here or tuning in today, is we recognize that these conditions are getting worse. It's been a sizzling summer in most parts of California, and what you referenced that happened since our last task force meeting really was propelled by that just intense, sustained heat. And we can expect more of that in coming years, and frankly, more fire risk this season. I'm always reminded that the Camp Fire occurred at the very end of October, beginning of November. So as you have educated us, we really don't have a fire season anymore, we have a fire year. And I'll also say that this is a challenge that we share not only in Nevada and California, but across the West. And here today we have colleagues from Washington State, as well as the province of British Columbia, to learn from each other about what's working across our states to actually get our hands around this catastrophic wildfire risk. Next, I want to take an opportunity just for a moment to have the executive committee members introduce themselves. And really the purpose of that is to help identify who's driving the work of this integrated task force. So I want to start with our elected officials who are part of the committee. And we'll start with Ed Valenzuela. Ed is a supervisor of the county of Siskiyou in the far north of California. And Ed, if you want to just introduce yourself and maybe just a couple bullets on what's on the top of your mind here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll be brief. As I listen, and I take this as a learning experience, I represent Siskiyou County, a rural county for the California State Association of Counties, a rural caucus. I will just tell you that when we talk about controlled burns, they're going to do one up on Mount Shasta here coming up. I can't tell you the importance of protecting the infrastructure because we are so dependent on tourism. And so what I tell constituents, you lose infrastructure, it's not coming back in my lifetime. I appreciate all the work that's being done. I just did a little road trip here to get here. I see where places have been burnt, see where things are going. Mr. Tyler, we had to talk about a fire in south of me in Shasta County. It is a year-round occurrence that we have to be attuned to. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed, for representing all of the counties through that California Association of Counties. We also have Supervisor Doug Teeter, who represents Butte County, but also here the rural counties of California.
Yeah, rural county representatives of California. So it's 40 members. We're a little more selective, 650K population max. So it's limiting in that factor. You know, it's amazing. You know, Butte County has had the Camp Fire, the North Complex Fire, the Dixie Fire, and now the Park Fire. So Mother Nature has done a wonderful job, this is my sarcasm, of reducing fuels in Butte County, and it's unfortunate in the Park Fire over 400 homes were lost in an area of generally a little more poverty than the rest of the area, and you know, especially the Tahoe area. And it's a challenge to see that. RCRC has spent over $10 million of its own money to start up kind of a pellet mill operation Tuolumne and Lassen, and hopefully having a port in Stockton. Our EIR is coming out this month. We need support, and we need, you know, you to look at our EIR and offer, you know, constructive criticism or accolades on what we're doing. It's to use the non-merchantable parts of the trees and, you know, sell the pellets ultimately overseas because they want to get off coal there. And so that's my public service announcement. That's what RCRC, as Golden State Natural Resources, we have a booth right outside. So please meet Sarah and Terrence. They're wonderful. You know, they're kind of the face of the operation. So thanks for allowing us some time, Wayne.
Thanks so much, Doug. I understand that one of your constituents is on our executive committee, and that's Don Hankins. Don is a professor at Chico State and also the leader of the Indigenous Stewardship Network. Don, thanks for your service on the task force, and just want you to share any thoughts you have.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Don Hankins. Thanks, Wade, and everybody for being here. It's a pleasure to be here in Washoe Homelands here in Tahoe. And as Chairman Smokey said, you know, earlier this week there was a great meeting that took place at Shingle Springs. I was also there, and hearing the stories of tribes coming together, cultural practitioners coming together to bring fire back into landscapes, learning about stewardship. And there's a lot of work that the state has been supporting in developing this through the strategic plan for beneficial use of fire and other programs to advance Indigenous stewardship. And so look for smoke in the near future coming from communities across the Sierras in building that out. So there's a lot of synergy that's at play. I do want to mention a little bit about the Park Fire, being that I live in that landscape where the Park Fire has burned through. And as Doug said, you know, we've had many fires that have burned through Butte County within the last 6 years that have really devastated our landscape in many ways. But one thing that I would say is that we have built partnerships with our tribal communities, Mechoopda Indian Tribe of Chico as one of those partners. We work with the other tribes in the county to advance this knowledge of fire and try to bring it in. There was a missed opportunity, I would say, though, that I want to highlight in the discussion of the Park Fire, and that is that there had been planning discussions for bringing fire back into the Ishi Wilderness, going back to about 2018, 2019. And you know, it's like we put a lot of effort into planning, and we don't get to action sometimes before these wildfires happen. And so I think thinking about that, we have to think, how do we get to scale? How do we accelerate these things so that we are not losing cultural resources and the ecological systems in which we all are dependent on? And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, thanks, Don. Good, just a powerful reminder. We have to move faster. We have to move at larger scale on this wildfire resilience work. We're also pleased to have on our committee the Pacific Southwest Research Station, which is really the science arm of the U.S. Forest Service. So I want to give Valerie Hipkins an opportunity to introduce herself.
Thank you. Good morning. Yes, I'm Valerie Hipkins. I'm the station director for the Pacific Southwest Research Station and the Pacific Northwest Research Station with the Forest Service. And I just wanted to mention a couple of our research priorities. We have 5 research priorities in our, research and development. And one is, as you could probably imagine, wildland fire science. We also do research in water and watersheds, wood products and bio-based economy research, climate change and ecosystem function, and then forecasting, inventory, and monitoring. This is in part our FIA, our Forest Inventory and Analysis Program. And I just want to mention just a couple research lines that we have going on at PSW, and some of the scientists that support PNW also use their expertise down here in in California. And we have decades of work in wildland fire science. In the recent years, we've really been leaning in heavily in identifying areas where fires are likely to ignite and spread so that we can map and track threats to communities and other assets. And Kara mentioned this, that really then swings us to putting more attention into measuring outcomes of our work as opposed to outputs. And so we're really looking to do research to better understand and to evaluate and to communicate the benefits of the actions that we're taking on the land. Also, a lot of research into, of course, climate implications, climate adaptation, climate vulnerability assessments, measuring and accounting for carbon, and also the economic analyses of recreation, other carbon benefits, water benefits, and also thinking about and understanding the social and economic barriers to underrepresented communities for outdoor recreation and for their ability to receive benefits. So really just pleased to be here again with you all.
Yeah, a lot of science happening at the station and across California. We're going to talk about some of that today, but we have a science advisory committee to ensure that all that we're doing across the task force is informed by science. So big thanks there. Last but not least on introductions, 2 key state agencies that also do this work in partnership with the agency that I lead. One is called the California Environmental Protection Agency, or Cal EPA. That includes our air board and our air boards, which is really important on the wildfire front, as well as our water boards. So our colleague Katie Landau is here.
Thank you. Good morning. Katie Landau, Special Advisor to the Deputy Secretary for Water Policy at Cal EPA. As Wade mentioned, it is comprised of several agencies focused on reducing water quality impacts, particularly for our watersheds and our drinking water supplies in California, the air quality impacts associated with wildfires and prescribed fire, and then also helping with the cleanup and the recovery work after the wildfires. So a big area of focus at Cal EPA right now is the coordination between the agencies involved with the permitting of a lot of the work supporting the increased pace and scale of that. An effort through the Wildfire Task Force Working Group is called permit synchronization. So we'd heard a lot from the private timber industries of the need to have some streamlining in those permitting requirements. Got touched on a little bit at yesterday's field trip at so I'm really happy to report that in August, the Cal EPA and the CNRA agencies that are involved in that review and permitting process had a kickoff meeting for a Lean Six Sigma analysis of the timber harvest and restoration projects. It's going to take about a year for that project to look at, with the outcome to be recommendations for opportunities for permit efficiencies for the private industries. If that's something you're interested in, come find me at one of the breaks or lunch, and I'm happy to take your information and so you can participate in that over the next year. And then the last thing with the air quality side, I did just want to make a plug for the Air Board's California Smoke Spotter. They've recently put out an update to that, so it now includes information for Californians on clean air centers that folks impacted by poor air quality can go and get a little bit of relief from that. So thank you, and I really look forward to today's conversation.
Katie, big thanks for both your leadership in cutting the red tape on the work we have to do, which you mentioned, and then also that Smoke Spotter app, which is all about helping people understand what the smoke conditions are and how they can seek relief if the conditions are bad. Our last introduction is Abby Edwards. Welcome, Abby. You are a leader at the Office of Land Use. I almost got it right. We've just changed the name. It was the Office of Planning and Research, and now it's the Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation. So the way I describe your office is you're an adjunct within the governor's office, really driving forward on California land use and its implications on wildfire.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here today. I'm standing in for Director Acefa at the Governor's Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation, formerly OPR, new name, we're still trying it out. Yeah, exactly. You know, we're the state's comprehensive long-range planning agency, and our office is really uniquely positioned within state government to address growing land use planning challenges within our state, and we really work to enhance wildfire resilience and climate change adaptation across California. Some of our key priorities include providing planning guidance to local governments to develop long-range plans, safety, housing, transportation, environmental justice, and more. We create policy and programmatic alignment through our Integrated Climate Adaptation and Resiliency Program. And we also invest in climate research, planning activities, and transformative projects to support climate adaptation and long-term resilience. I'm really excited to be here today. I'm really here to just listen, learn, and share information with you all about LCI, our initiatives as they relate to wildfire planning, watershed protection, and landscape resilience. And I'm really interested to hear from everyone and engage in this conversation about how we can really support regional priority needs and sustainability across this basin and beyond. So thank you so much.
Big thanks, Abby. So let's get to the meat of the agenda here today. This morning we're going to tackle a couple of topics. A little bit later we're going to have a focus on the Tahoe Basin and specifically what's happening here. We're going to hear from colleagues in Nevada and California, and I think that's going to be of interest to a lot of people who have joined us in person today. But as I said, this is also a working task force. So first we're going to have a report from our executive director, Patrick Wright, that's guiding this work on what's happening at the task force. And then, importantly, we're going to have a panel on what we call the treatment tracker, but we're really the dashboard. For the first time, we've now got our arms around the work that's happening across California from the dozens of agencies and hundreds of organizations. So I'm excited to hear that update. But first, let's turn it to Patrick.